Namaskaram. Welcome to the fourth episode, which is going to be pretty exciting because today we have a spectacular personality who is a powerful life coach, Kamini Wood. She's based out of North Carolina and is very passionate about working with people to heal their relationship with themselves. Her mission is to empower high performing adults and teens to become self reliant, self leaders by reducing stress and anxiety, overcoming imposter syndrome, working with trauma, and rediscovering their authentic me. She's been on several talk shows, notably The Lisa Show, The Jim Brickman Show, and many more. Many of her clients love the way she approached their issues that they are dealing with and have helped them change their life drastically. She has authored more than 3 books, with the recent being Doing Your Best, Finding Productivity Through Self-Compassion. So let us hear her out and learn something new.
Do you ever say yes when you really want to say no? Do you ever inconvenience yourself for the sake of other people and their happiness? Do you engage in maybe passive-aggressive behaviors because you're frustrated and resentful for saying yes for something that you really didn't want to do in the first place? Do you constantly tell yourself, I got this, I can handle this too, and just continue to add more to your plate on a daily basis? If you answered yes to some of these, you might have an issue with setting boundaries. Setting healthy and clear boundaries is essential for your own self-care and your own well-being. Boundaries involve having clear borders between yourself and other people and allow space for you to have your own everyday experiences. Boundaries allow you to create space for your own needs, wants, goals, desires. They help establish your own identity and differentiate your own individuality from others and help you indicate what you want in your own world. Boundaries are often, people are often reluctant to set boundaries because there's a fear of creating unhappiness for others. But what ends up happening when we don't have clear and healthy boundaries is we set ourselves up for codependent relationships. Setting boundaries has so many benefits besides just creating space for your own self-care. Setting boundaries allows you to create space for your own mental and emotional health. So, for example, in relationships, if you don't have great boundaries, you could end up in a codependent, toxic relationship, which could lead to manipulation or some type of emotional abuse. So healthy boundaries can contribute to a range of improvements. And actually, boundaries are a way that we can improve the relationships we have with others. Setting boundaries can lead to better communication, protecting your own rights, improved self-awareness. It reduces anger and resentment. It allows for better stress management. It allows for greater ability to solve conflicts, to create space for healthy communication, for compassionate communication. Boundaries are a way to also improve your own assertiveness, your own self-esteem and self-confidence. It allows room for self-compassion and compassion for others. And also, boundaries are a way for us to create space for safety and for valuing and respecting ourselves. There are several different types of boundaries that we can talk about. The very first one, of course, is our personal boundaries. Being self-compassionate and learning to treat yourself with self-compassion and kindness is one of the most essential parts of setting a boundary. Being kind to yourself over judgment. Recognizing that you're part of common humanity, you're not isolated in the things that you're experiencing. Those forms of self-compassion can protect you against the unproductive feelings of shame, grief, and resentment. There are several categories of boundaries that we talk about when creating personal boundaries, and the ones that you really need to pay attention to. There are your own physical boundaries, which is that this is your body. So making boundaries around, how people can touch you, be around you. Nobody gets permission to do any of that unless you give them permission. There's the category of sexual boundaries. You get to decide what types of relationships you want to have and what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. There's the category of material boundaries. You determine, in terms of your material possessions and what you own, who gets to use what, and being able to say, no, I don't want to allow you to have this. And then, of course, there's the two really important categories of mental boundaries and emotional boundaries. Mental boundaries is recognizing that you get to decide for yourself what your own thoughts are. You get to decide what your emotions are, and you get to give yourself permission to have those boundaries around your own mental well-being and how you think and proceed with your own choices based on your own value system. And so in that second category there that I mentioned that's really important is the emotional boundaries. You are responsible for the feelings and the emotions that you have, just as other people are responsible for theirs. So setting healthy emotional boundaries around your own self, recognizing that how you think about something and how you react to it is your responsibility, and also recognizing that other people need to take responsibility for their emotions and their feelings. So when we're talking about boundaries, we can be very rigid with our boundaries, which is about, it has to be this way or no way. We can recognize that there could be we could set porous boundaries, which Terry Cole in her book Boundary Boss talks about, which is where we set a boundary, but then we actually allow it to, the boundary moves very quickly. And then, of course, we have flexible and healthy boundaries, which is when you recognize that your values and thoughts matter, you recognize that your needs and desires matter, you become comfortable with asking for help, and you're able to say no without that extra guilt or shame. So when we're thinking about how do we learn to do this, one of the very first things that we talk about is being able to center for yourself your own needs and your own needs and your own feelings, and being able to prioritize that. Secondly, it's about setting your own personal goals, learning to prioritize tasks for yourself, goals that you're setting for yourself, and recognizing that your goals do not always have to take a backseat to somebody else. We also talk about practicing mindfulness. Mindfulness is about allowing the past to be in the past and the future to unfold as it will, and we are in this present moment. When we are in this present moment, it allows us the ability to manage stress and overwhelm, and we can actually boost our own optimism, as well as create space for us to think of challenges in a flexible way, asking ourselves, is there another way to think about this? Through boundaries, we also, as I mentioned before, we learn assertiveness. It's about recognizing that assertiveness is not the same thing as being aggressive. Learning to simply say no without feeling guilt or shame around it is extraordinarily important. And sometimes when we are really struggling with setting boundaries, we do need to seek support, because sometimes the neural pathways have been built so strong that keep us from being able to set boundaries. But recognizing that without boundaries, we don't have the ability to really own who we are, and it really does set us up for possibly ending up in toxic or unhealthy relationships. Or for instance, we could end up overworking and lead ourselves to burnout if we don't have great work boundaries, because oftentimes if we're at work and we constantly say yes, 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 and we keep adding to our plate, eventually we end up getting stressed and overwhelmed, and we end up burning out. So in essence, what we're really saying is, while it could be scary to set boundaries, boundaries are actually a method of self-care. They help us experience less stress. They help us promote our own self-respect. They help us really solidify the relationship with ourselves. And they allow us to have sincere and honest communication with the people that we have relationships with, whether it be romantic relationships, familial relationships, workplace relationships, social relationships. When we are able to set these healthy boundaries, it puts us in a place where we can have sincere, healthy, honest communication, and allows us to really build our own self-esteem, self-confidence, and at the end of the day, our own self-leadership. If you are struggling with this and you find yourself not being able to set boundaries and would like support around this, feel free to reach out to me at any time at kaminiwood.com. Take care.
Thank you, Kamini, for making us aware regarding the importance of setting boundaries in our personal as well as professional life that would help declutter our life and focus more towards our self-care regime. I'm so grateful to you for taking out time and choosing Self Talk Show as a medium to spread awareness about the same. It was lovely having you on the show. I would highly recommend to visit www.kamniwood.com for more information or to have one-to-one coaching sessions with Kamini. So with this, we come to an end of this episode. Hope you liked it, and the feedback would definitely do wonders. We would really appreciate it if you can subscribe to Self Talk Show. More episodes, more awareness is coming your way, so stay tuned and keep self-talking. You can reach out to us for questions, queries or suggestions at www.selftalkshow.com or email us at showselftalk@gmail.com or through social media pages on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. Thank you again and see you with another episode.